There's a ship that is French and it goes around the world and it disposes of toxic chemicals out at sea by burning them.
That would be extremely expensive because you're looking at a 23% weight percent solution of water, and to put something through it would be wonderful in theory, but unfortunately it's illegal and would not work because the fluoride is a chemical element. It's not altered in any way by burning, and in fact the process of burning with other wastes may make it more dangerous molecules. So even if you could get the incineration ship to volunteer to take the material, they would not be allowed to incinerate or dispose of in any way. It's a problem. We know that the phosphate fertiliser industry has a reserve plan to consolidate this waste and probably dispose of it in triple containment in the same way that radioactive material is done. So initially they would probably take the scrubbed material, which is hydrofluorosilicic acid, mix it with lime to make the calcium salt, dry it and then put it into a crude concrete, which they would then enclose in at least 2 other levels of protection. And I'll just flash you through a few pictures because we're running short of time. But
excuse me, is that what the countries that don't fluoridate their water, what do they do with that waste product?
Well, China will sell fluoride to Australian mugs who are stupid enough to buy it. China won't deliberately damage its population because in 1991 UNESCO funded the initial studies to get to the bottom of what was causing mental retardation in communities with fluoride contamination. So the world government, if you like, funded the initial Chinese studies. They then continued it in their own right, and there's no way that they'll give any level of fluoride to any of their population, but they will dispose of toxic byproducts from the phosphate industry, put it in bags and send it to Australia, because they'll make a buck.
I received some of the assay sheets from the water corp,
Yeah.
from the company you mentioned, and I was surprised how little there was on the sheet. So I rang the company and ended up talking to the lady that actually ordered those sheets, and during conversation she said to me, well, what makes you think there should be more there? I said, well, where the rock comes from, I expect to see these other items. And she turned around and said, oh no, I tell them what to test for. So I was under the assumption that the sheet would test everything. No, it only tests for what she asks for.
Yes, the Water Corporation is criminally negligent in my view, and that the individual member of the Water Corporation who was sent by the CEO, who I identified by name in the slide, I believe, should be a subject of legal action for that level of negligence. The Water Corporation only tests the water in Perth water once every 7 days. In the meantime, if there's an operational failure of their plant, then you won't get to hear about it, and the result will be averaged out in their data. So going back...
In their data, in the sheet as well, all the suburbs and the tests, and they're all exactly 0.75, no deviation at all.
Yeah, well, if you believe that, good luck to you. So this is just emphasising that Chinese or other foreign countries, we don't want to discriminate, any country that is not fluoridating and making a fluoride waste, whether it be from the aluminium industry, the phosphate industry, and now increasingly the nuclear weapons industry, wants to put their fluorine through your gut, because there are huge stockpiles of uranium hexafluoride internationally that have to be disposed of. They can't be vented to air, and it is a gas. They can't put it into the sea, even in drums. So what they're doing is chemically reducing the uranium hexafluoride to uranium metal, which they are then making into genotoxic, armor-piercing shells to increasingly use on the battlefield and disseminate the uranium metal that way. But they still have the problem of the fluorine. What are they going to do? Can't vent it to air, can't dump it in the sea, so try to increase the forced fluoridation of the masses. Once again, another bag. Now this just shows you the level of toxicity that I talk about fluoride. With one bag of the commercial product, I can guarantee to kill that number of people. 39,000 people can be killed with 22 kilograms of this material. And I will now fumble in my wallet to find my display item. And you won't be able to see it very well, but yeah. Derek's an absolute whiz with these things, I'm hopeless. But I hold in my hand here, against a black curtain. That is the lethal dose of sodium fluoride. Now, by lethal dose, we define it in toxicological terms of the LD50. That little group of crystals there will kill 1 in 2 statistically average people. So it's like tossing a coin. You can look at the person next to you, and if you both swallow that, we can guarantee on statistical averaging, one of you will die and one of you will just survive. That's the reality of when we say we can kill the number of people. And that level may be an overestimate of the amount required.
Hi. So what is your recommendation to those people who do live in fluoridated areas?
Unfortunately, the recommendation is to find a source of preferably reverse osmosis water. Distilled water, if purchased from a manufacturer, a reputable manufacturer, is probably next best. The danger with distilled water is that if it's distilled under acid conditions, the hydrogen fluoride molecule goes over into the distilled water. But reverse osmosis, as used in our desalination plants, will prevent most of the fluoride ion going through, but it doesn't prevent the neutral, dangerous hydrogen fluoride molecule because that's not repelled by the membrane. So some of the fluoride gets through as hydrogen fluoride. I won't go through that, but there's data here that you can look at later. A Japanese researcher was saying that acute toxic symptoms can occur at as little as 0.1 milligrams per kilogram of human. Now, the World Health Organization, reluctantly now, is admitting that fluoride is more toxic than lead and slightly less toxic than arsenic. So, however, the World Health Organization has a problem because they still officially recommend fluoridation for your teeth. So, toxicologists will tell you is that because of the toxicity of lead and arsenic, the target for your input tool of you and me is 0. There's 0 tolerable lead, 0 tolerable arsenic, and yet they still try to tell you it's fine to take in a chemical more toxic than lead. Corporate greed. Corporate greed at the local level, and a document obtained under Freedom of Information by this wonderful fluoride-free Western Australia organisation details how this greedy company that chooses not to dispose of its waste in an ethical manner profits by selling to the taxpayers. So they're increasing the cost of your water supply to poison you across the state, and they vary their price depending obviously on distance. So the poor people in Broome who are being poisoned are being charged much more to be poisoned than the people locally. This is a slide, once again, you can refer to high levels of fluoride. Got another question at the back? Yeah.
So we live in Newman, and so Newman will be fluoride.
Yes, you're right. We live in Newman.
Oh, good on you.
At the end of 2017.
Well,
So we've been advocating quite strongly for it. There's a lot of Aboriginal communities around where we live. So mining companies take the groundwater, which then produces up the arsenic levels. That's why a lot of the Aboriginal communities have had basically no water, so they've been tubing in the bottled water.
yeah.
And because of the healthcare costs shots and stuff like that, and increased vaccinations across with the Indigenous as well, that they have issues with that as well. They've seen massive problems with the Indigenous, and we have been trying so hard to keep to get the information out there, but like they just hold meetings, late night, give people 5 minutes notice and then do it.
Yes.
The more that we, make our public opinion known, the more we're shut down.
Well, all I can say is keep up the fight, expose the wicked mechanisms that the West Australian public health people are using, such as calling a meeting at 2:30 p.m. on a weekday when numerous people are busy working, looking after children, learning, and then they claim, oh, no one came along, so there's no opposition. It's just wicked.
20 minutes notice.
Yeah, we're talking about, in my view, pure consolidated evil techniques used. And good on you for boosting the human effort. And what we're finding is that communities right across Australia are becoming aware. They're spreading information.
We had a great reverse osmosis system in Newman up until a year and a half ago. And then for some reason it was too costly with the mining downturn and stuff like that, billable rates and stuff. They stopped our reverse osmosis system for the whole town and decided that they were going to go to fluoridation instead.
Yeah, so not filtering out the natural contaminants and then deliberately adding a multiple systemic poison to your water. That's the contempt that this state government has for Western Australia. This graph, just by the way, I was talking about hydrogen fluoride going through a reverse osmosis membrane. In your stomach, all fluorides are converted to hydrogen fluoride molecule. It's a neutral molecule, and it diffuses through your gut 1 million times faster than the fluoride ion. It's the chemical actually doing the health damage. And you can observe where fluoride goes within the human body, and I call this a slide that the National Health and Medical Research Council is desperate for no one in this audience to see. Because what this shows is a healthy human volunteer injected with fluoride, and the black areas are where the radioactive fluorine decays and emits a positron and enables an image of the whole body and internal organs. And you can see that the fluoride is sticking out to the major bones and the spine and the base of the brain. But note also the arteries and veins and all of the major joints where people are having joint problems, hip replacements and knee replacements. And so this is a devastating, instant description of how your body responds to injected fluoride. And if you look very closely at the bladder, which is identifiable by being the most black part of the picture, then once again the body tries to immediately eject this poison from the system. Further proof that this element has no utility to human function whatsoever. It's not been identified to have any useful purpose in the entire human organism. It's a poison and the body tries to get rid of it, but can't. Once it sticks to bone, it's there for life.
So you can't ever get it out of the body?
No, not in that. Oh, sorry. Not in practical terms. No.
The previous picture, like it said that healthy volunteers have ingested it. Did they ingest just like one drink, or they've ingested it over a period of time? How is that done?
The commonly used reference in science is that half of the fluoride that you take in through your lips today will be with you for life, assuming that you have healthy kidneys. The body can only shed what's still available in the blood as it gets to the kidney. The fluoride that hits your bones or your brain or your ligaments or your tendons.
What I want to know is what if these volunteers did they drink a fluoride thing?
Oh, sorry, I'm not with you now. Right, I thought you were talking about how much gets in. Yes, they were actually injected in this case into the bloodstream to get a quick result.
Injection.
Yes, And the same effect will go if you absorb